And last but not least, if I can ask our guests, Hassan, Idil, and Aya to make their way onto the stage. So we are at our, you're over here, please. Thank you. Aya over there, and Idil close to, you can be closest to the lectern. Thank you so much. So our very last session, again, not only for the day, but for the new normal program. And I thought, what better way to end than, three of the internet's finest shit posting theorists and, online guides to what and why we continue to find ourselves on, to use a Bataille term, these accursed apps. So we've got Aya Gawdat, we have Hassan Elwan and Idil Galip. And just to give you a little bit of context here in terms of how we set up the brief. So from the axis of posting to post-platform exodus, from enshittification to automated hopecore edits, from we're so back to we're so cooked, the feed arouses complex feelings because the feed is the world mediated in more than real time. In this session, three of the internet's most intrepid meme protagonists will provide an audit of being online today. Is the new normal slop or cope? Is the dead internet theory more than a conspiracy to post or not to post? And as one of Declan's tracks has been singing along with us all day, did you remember to touch grass today? So we're going to start with Aya. Aya Gawdat is an internet and artist and researcher exploring the intersection of spirit, memory, and technology through painting, mixed media, and digital culture. Her work investigates the unseen forces that shape human experience. She's the creator of Onewiththeinternet, a formerly anonymous platform reflecting the collective consciousness of the online world. She's also a resident here in Dubai. Will you please join in welcoming Aya Gawdat?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. This is my first time speaking to a group of people beyond usernames, so if I sound nervous, I am. But I couldn't pass this opportunity to be part of the forum and part of this conversation. So I'm gonna start with some lore and the admin reveal. So I'm Aya Gawdat. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. And even though painting has always been my first love, I really enjoy just the experience of switching between mediums and seeing the way that I can sort of translate my essence into different forms. And I think that was probably one of the main reasons that this page was able to come to be. And, while I've always been an artist, I've also always been on my computer. And I've always enjoyed the process of connecting with random people online. And over time, we've all sort of witnessed the way that the internet has been gentrified. There's this hyper-focus on monetization and, the obsession with branding your identity and the visibility in the cloud, all things I really hate, and sort of caused my inner child to throw a tantrum. And so around 2014, I logged off for about 3 years. And when I came back, not because I wanted to, but because it was now inevitable, you had to have an online presence to exist in the physical world. Everything was way worse than when I had left, but I think when we say that energy doesn't die, it transforms. Everything that we loved from the old internet sort of manifested into this final frontier of authenticity, which was memes. And as time went on, I sort of could no longer log off. I didn't want to miss out on what everyone was pouring into the collective space. And I think the reason that memes were really able to sort of pass through these rigid platforms is because they are the representation of the intangible part of us. They are our consciousness, our thoughts, our feelings, and so they could sort of fill up any space, you know, like water just filling up a square. And yeah, I eventually just decided to stop fighting it and gave in and sort of made this new declaration to become at one with the internet. And I'm not a fan of punishment, so I skipped the discipline, I skipped the restriction, and I went for the secret third thing and sort of set that intention to make it something. And yeah, the rest is now, I guess, history, but it was essentially like there was no strong intention when I made the space. I was just shitposting in the beginning. And I think, you know, it's such an intimate thing. Us artists, we want to be received more than we care about being seen. And, you know, to drop my identity and be received by people who had no idea who I was essentially what I wanted. And so it was very fulfilling, and it stuck as part of my lifestyle. But
Sorry, Aya,
yeah.
with your movie,
Yeah.
do you want to play it while it's...
I mean, it could have if you wanted, but it's a bit
Yes,
late.
please. Could we play the video?
It's silly. But yeah, so I was connecting with everyone on my space, and you know, when it was still 3 digits, I was really, you know, very aware of every single person who came into the space, and it sort of had this communal energy that anyone that was there had the opportunity to be a part of it. And not only was I connecting with people again, I was also able to explore the internet freely, because I dropped my physical identity, and like a meme, I was just, you know, Wi-Fiing through the spaces that I technically shouldn't have been in, like alt-right spaces, occultist spaces, and all that sort of unlocked this understanding of memes as, you know, visual cultural coding. And yeah, I mean, if you're on the page, you know that I'm a big good morning poster. And I would post good morning because, you know, I would receive my good mornings from my uncle every morning, and I wanted to spread that that love on to anyone who was around. And later on, when I found out about Pepe and his good mornings, I realized that I was activating a frequency that I wasn't aware of, and it just led me to understand that a meme exists in all its forms, regardless of where it is in its evolution. And then, you know, October 7th happened, and you know, we could no longer shitpost. Everything had to be really intentional, and we sort of unlocked this new stage of social responsibility in such a real way. But yeah, looking back now, I feel like that moment really unlocked 2 core functions of the screen on a collective level. I think it was existing within meme spaces before, but now it was quite mainstream. And the first one was that we had now created this portal. The screen was now this place we could walk through and be together and grieve together. And we weren't online to perform, we were online to witness and stand and be with the Palestinian people. And secondly, we also unlocked this new, you know, counter weapon. You know, the screens, the phones have always been, you know, attacking us, you know, using our attention, harvesting that. And we unlocked this strong desire to fix the narrative and fix and reframe and make sure that the truth was being said. And I think, what people tend to miss is that when we say that posting is warfare, it's not at all poetic, it's quite technical. Screens were developed through CRTs and radar systems. The internet sort of was born out of military surveillance projects. And now we all sort of have this very powerful tool in our pockets. And it's just, it's a quite intimate relationship. We all, sleep and the phone knows everything about us. And it's just not to scare anyone, but sort of to say that posting has now become power and a resistance tool. And it's important to recognize the spells and the cultural codes we're casting into the space. But yeah.
Thank you. Perfect timing. I was going to ask.
Okay.
Idil?
Yes.
You're going to do it up at the lectern? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So next up is Idil Galip. Idil is a lecturer in new media and digital culture at the University of Amsterdam. Her work focuses on cultural production and on platforms, and she's the founder of the Meme Studies Research Network. Yep, go for it. And Idil's going to give us a kind of light speed history of how posting has changed over the last several years. So will you please join in welcoming Idil Galip? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shumon. Thanks, Y7, and thanks to you too. So I'm not an artist, I'm not a practitioner, I'm an academic, and that I think also explains my slides. I want to also begin by noting that the way that I approach the conversation is slightly maybe different from how artists might approach it. I study internet cultures and histories, and I thought it would be a good idea for us to kind of lay the groundwork of how posting has changed in a very simplified kind of way. I look at posting as cultural production primarily, and one that has really transformed through material, social, and political shifts. So some of this stuff you might already know, and some of it might be new to you, but I think it's a good idea for all of us to maybe have a sort of timeline of posting. So to start, this is the era of sincerity. Some of you might remember this era. Some of you may not have even been born yet. This more so corresponds to the early stages of the public internet. It's been kind of called Web 1.0. This is a retronym, so this was kind of, people came up with this looking back at these early stages of the internet. And this era I really characterize by a true sense of sincerity, not this kind of meta-modernity, ironic, anti-cringe ideology, but true amateur sincerity, fun for fun's sake, posting for posting's sake. In 1993, Howard Rheingold, this is an early kind of perhaps like cyber utopian, cyber optimist, cyber theorist, called this the homesteading on the electronic frontier. This is when you could claim your piece of the wild, wild web, where you could have a website. This was GeoCities, and here you can see an example from a website that you can actually, this has been archived, so if you're interested, you can go and actually find this, but this is from a project by two artists that I took. But this is the time, the era of personal homepages. This is with blinking text saying, under construction. Most people, I think it's also good to remember that most people at this time, there were cultural consumers, there were email senders, there were web surfers. Some people made personal homepages, but it wasn't everyone. So again, it was this kind of niche interest, amateurism, sincerity. These people were what we call posters today. But they were fewer, and they built their digital homes by hand, line by line. The sincerity of this era is something we now nostalgize, something we try to recapture in some futile ways, and we long for this more so pre-commercial internet where expression really wasn't measured by engagement metrics. This is, of course, followed by the web that we all know, the web that we all remember, Web 2.0, the second era, the era that I call the era of virality. This is when media became social through platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And when people became users, no longer were you a web surfer or a person on the internet, but you were a user of something. This is also when posts became content, and the internet slowly became centralized, and virality was possible. Previously, you had these kind of colonial digital homesteads, and all of them were basically razed, and instead we had an apartment complex where most people were now renters of internet space. I like to look at this kind of image and think about what we lost. This is 2007, and some of these you might recognize. I think it's a good kind of exercise to think about all the lost websites. Some of these still exist, some of these have been hacked recently, and some of them are lost forever in the internet space. So now from that to this, where from many homes to a few landlords. This is more or less what it feels like to be online today. And this kind of takes us to a different stage of the internet, the one that we're inhabiting right now. This is the era of algo-maxing. I thought everyone was coming up with neologisms like perma-weird and janky capitalism, and I wanted to try my hand at it, so. This isn't, you would assume that we start with Web 1.0, Web 2.0. I mean, the natural progression is Web 3.0, but this isn't Web 3.0. Web 3.0, to me, is a techno-utopian vision of a decentralized internet built on blockchain technologies. And the idea of Web 3.0, it proposes a world where users own their data, interact P2P, govern platforms collectively through tokens and smart technologies, but in practice, these ideals often collapse into new forms of centralization, repackaged through commercial complexity and economic abstraction. Yet, there's an ideological appeal in returning to the decentralized dream of early internet culture. But the infrastructural cognitive demands of blockchain systems make them inaccessible for most people. It makes it inaccessible for me. We can't really meaningfully go back to a web of personal servers and digital sovereignty, not because people don't want autonomy, but because the current internet has reshaped the very conditions of participation. Instead, we live in the recommender web or the recommendation web, which I place to the beginning of 2016 when Instagram debuted their new algorithmic ordering system, from chronological posts to algorithmically ordered posts. No longer were you seeing them as they popped up on your screen, but they were arranged by these opaque algorithmic systems that kind of appear as an omnipresent force in our lives today. We know what you want better than you do. You don't even need to search anymore. We'll find what you need. This is the manufacturing of desire, the gamification of sociality, the monetization of attention that many people yesterday and today have talked about in detail. We all know the algorithm isn't just code, right? It's a cultural force and also a technology of the self. There is a problematic part of this era. We have been talking and discussing it for ages. The algorithm is you. It's just reflecting your preferences. This is what we're told. There's nothing wrong with the algorithm. It's just you. But this obscures the commercial imperatives driving these systems. We now see terms like AI slop emerging to describe the endless stream of algorithmically optimized content, technically polished, but often devoid of substance. Brain rot captures the affective toll of this environment, the sensation of scrolling through a fragmented feed that leaves us overstimulated but strangely numb. And these terms aren't just internet slang anymore. They're embodied critiques of a system that produces content faster than we can meaningfully engage with. I think this is enough doomerism from me. I want to end on a really nice note. So I think there's something really fascinating about this stage right now. I think even in this algorithmic sludge, something deeply human persists. AI can simulate jokes, but can't truly construct them because humor is socially constructed. It requires shared context, cultural understanding, the subtle negotiations of meaning that happen between people. And memes aren't just content, they're moments of shared recognition. They're digital descendants of our oldest human practices, storytelling, oral culture, just talking to each other, right? And I think the impulse to share stories, to make each other laugh, to find meaning together, these aren't disrupted by algorithms, but find new expressions within them. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. The panelists here today, I know them through shitposting and being online together, and our relationships have formed through memes and jokes and algorithms, of course, and through that shared language that algorithms can distribute but never fully understand. And now we're here in the same physical space talking to each other, creating and laughing. And I'm not a techno-optimist by any means, but to deny people their humanity and the resistance against algorithms is to deny ourselves and to deny ourselves agency. Even in the endless scroll of AI slop, there is a hand that reaches out to hold yours. I think that this is what these creators are doing. So this is where I'll hand it over to the creators, which I think they'll be able to give us something more than a timeline and maybe a discussion of their practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Idil. Is that timeline that you gave us, is that something you'd already constructed before, or is this something you just kind of thought about through this invitation?
I constructed it because I gave a lecture on the professionalization of meme making, and I had to kind of give some context about how meme making has been professionalized, how it's been monetized. So I thought, okay, I can't really just talk about meme making, it's about posting, so let me try to move it a little bit towards posting. And I've kind of made the timeline in a way that is, I'm sure, debatable. Many people might disagree with me, but this is kind of how I see it. I see it as like kind of early, like Web 1.0 is more or less kind of agreed upon. Then we have social media platforms. 2006, 2007 is when we all start going on Facebook, basically. And then afterwards, we have the kind of Instagram algorithm that changes many people's kind of idea of the internet, and I constructed it with kind of a populist lens, not like I wasn't really looking at super niche platforms. So, yes.
Thank you very much. So we're just going to get the clicker for Al Hassan. So I'm going to now welcome to the discussion Al Hassan Elwan, who's the instigator and founder of POSTPOSTPOST. Did I say that 3 times? Yeah. I don't want to under-post or over-post. And there's a trademark at the end of this. A brand movement that produces publication films and online cultural commentary. It's also been a book, POSTPOSTPOST, Reflections on a New Avant-Garde, which Hassan did with Ruba Swale, which has kind of very interestingly moved through the world, also like a physical meme, it feels to me. And Al Hassan has been featured in many publications such as Flash Art, Freeze, Soul, November, Damn Magazine. And what I wanted Hassan to sort of contribute to this, to our discussion today, was actually reading a piece that he'd written for Dazed Mena recently, which picked up, I think, on one of the, some of the terms that you just said, Idil, regarding obviously brain rot and slop and the accursed giblification, which we will talk about as well shortly. So will you please join me in welcoming Hassan Elwan? Thank you.
Thank you, Shumon, Y7, and Aya and Idil for being here. Thank you to His Royal Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid for having me here as well. And let me start by giving you a quick post download. Post is a brand that produces publications, films, and cultural commentary. I also like to see it as a movement. It was born out of my own frustration with cultural acceptance of linear historicism, this infamous divide of modernism, postmodernism, and then the lesser known postmodernism, which was like the new sincerity movement of the 90s, which I've also seen as specifically dangerous because it touted this return to modernist grand narratives and authenticity discourse. So post felt like the only adequately ridiculous follow-up that can never be taken seriously, like a bulletproof vest to be immune to sincerity. There's, of course, the more obvious side to post twofold interpretation, as it centers online posting, basically our undisputed zeitgeist identifier. And post is this signpost that proclaims internet culture is no longer an outlier to mainstream culture, it's no longer a subculture, it's rather what drives culture in general. And then on April 7th, this month, the global market reacted to an unverified tweet regarding a pause on US tariffs. And then the White House denounced it as a rumor, then implemented it after seeing it had a positive effect on the market. Everyday internet events such as these market manipulations, Kanye West's latest attention-seeking antics, the Signal group chat leak, even Elon's Nazi salute, all feel like they're performed for the internet first and then for the so-called real world second. The internet is no longer a commentary track to real life, it's the writer's room. This is the new normal of being online as I see it, and I'll try to stick to the description of this panel and present an audit of it. In 2023, a report by Imperva said that bots made up 47% of internet traffic, which many used as evidence to solidify the dead internet theory. In 2025, that number is 51%. Congratulations, we're now officially a minority. For the uninitiated, the dead internet theory is the idea that most of the internet is now fake. Bots talking to bots, influencing public opinion, and algorithms designed to minimize organic human activity. The 51% statistic sounds scary until you learn that in 2016, it was actually 52%. And no one thought the internet was dead back then. So this is all a vibes thing. And the main culprit is what is now known as slop. So slop has been used in online verbiage to refer to low-effort content, but it is lexically slanting more towards describing generative AI content. Aesthetes, whom I tend to agree with, see slop as shoddy, anodyne, NPC tier mediocrity, devoid of both awe and disgust. Its sole purpose is rapid, culturally contagious, profit maximizing, formulaic production and reproduction, a hallmark of late-stage capitalism. It's a mode of production that predates AI, and it's basically, it's fast food, it's Pinterest, it's the gentrified building, it's hotel paintings, it's elevator music. Yeah, and basically, remember 2 years ago when we used to say things are mid? Slop is the extreme mid. But I asked ChatGPT to define slop, and here's what it said. Slop is what happens when an algorithm is trained to maximize engagement in a context where meaning, intention, and authorship are treated as irrelevant. Its content divorced from context, a perpetual scroll of vaguely familiar shapes and sounds. Slop is cheap, fast, and frictionless. It flattens the sublime and the stupid into the same affectless stream. It's not just content, it's control. Slop is a tool of power. I'll just, 1 second. So I agree with ChatGPT. Slop is the endgame of personalized recommendation feeds. Like Idil was saying, it's basically what this era of algomaxing always wanted. It's the holy grail of content and attention economy. The whole point of engagement incentivized algorithms. And it floods the feed like plastic floods the ocean. It's digital plastic. It's another step to further bubbleize the internet. The bubble of your like-minded community or network is on its way to becoming the bubble of you, a self-optimizing loop of pre-approved taste, no strangers, no chance, no friction, more distance. We're not engaging, we're being engaged by code. So we can take a trip to an AI slop factory. This is Abhishek, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, who's a side hustle / finance bro from India, explaining how to make a quick buck with generative AI. He says in this YouTube tutorial, these days Facebook is giving very good performance bonuses on these. You can do this too. If you get your images created with the help of AI, then you will never run out of images. You can upload 50 or even 100 posts with such images every day and make good money. He suggests the prompt to get his students started: poor people, thin body. Abhishek says Facebook audiences are very emotional. Once they see this type of content, they like, share, and comment, which, especially if US-based, can make you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Now, what Abhishek earns is nothing compared to someone like Daniel Bitton, who has built a slop empire on YouTube by buying old dead channels and turning them into factories of highly engaging AI-generated content. Bitton sends me marketing emails with messages like, YouTube doesn't care about your production value, they care about feeding, all caps, their audience. While losers spend 5 to 6 hours making one perfect video, we're cranking out 8 to 10 shorts in under 30 minutes. How? By combining two simple ingredients: cutting-edge AI tools that do 90% of the work, and my simple 3-step formula that tells AI exactly how to create viral shorts. Total time I spend, 2 to 4 minutes max. What they're doing can be compared to what hackers call the brute forcing approach, which is the primitive rapid trial and error password guessing, like trying every possible pin from 000 to 999 until one of them works, which is usually automated. It's not efficient, but it's effective, but it's a way to brute force the algorithm. And usually entities that are under such attacks try to defend themselves against it. In this case, however, big tech are incentivizing it. So platforms like Meta have decided to embrace the slop completely. It's creating tools to allow businesses to generate hundreds of personalized versions of adverts. It is also experimenting with entire feeds of AI content. This is what sloponomics looks like. Of course, we can try and resist by making more active choices online. There was a time when we had to actively look for what we wanted to consume, the hunter-gatherer days of Web 1 internet. Now I have a hard time remembering the last time I discovered new music that wasn't recommended by Spotify. We try to train the algorithm, but it's usually too opaque, and we try to subscribe to our favorite Substackers and Patreon creators, but we end up prioritizing rent. And decentralized socials like Blue Sky and Mastodon might be gaining momentum, but it's still too slow. We're disadvantaged, and it's all copium, but not to doom too much. I think we haven't lost yet. Because while slop as a mode of production is inherently creatively obsolete and inoperable, its aesthetic is very malleable. And this can be most obvious in the Italian brain rot universe, which Shumon has mentioned a couple of times yesterday and today as well. Many of our feeds have been completely taken over by these charming characters like Bombardillo, Crocodilo, Liri Liri La La La, Ballerina Cappuccina. And it's, in my opinion, just the greatest work of art Italians have produced since the Sistine Chapel. Yeah. And
the new Renaissance.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe this is this fills me with hope. Well, not fills me, but gives me hope. Because I see Gen Alpha, they lead the avant-garde of meme culture on TikTok before Instagram imports it like 2 to 3 weeks later. And they've evolved this medium of memes through an emphasis on world building, basically creating universes with both fictional and non-fictional characters, with very fluid lore that's up for grabs till it reaches some kind of consensus through basically the comments of these pieces of content. And it's very much like the worlds of Fortnite and Marvel multiverses. You can have characters like Tralalero Tralala meet Team Cheese from the American Brain Rot universe, or Oopie Goopie from the French Brain Rot universe. And when the stakes are too high, they can summon LeBron James. I've seen that video. So it's truly inspiring international dialogue and utopian.
It's the new United Nations.
Yeah, exactly. Diplomacy, foreign policy will be influenced by these guys. So yeah, just I think like Tung 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 Sahur is enough evidence that we're still one step ahead of AI, even though it wouldn't have existed without AI. So the point I'm making is a shark in Nike shoes is slop, but Tralalero Tralala is not. Shrimp Jesus is slop, but a giblified shrimp Jesus is not. Lore makes a difference in the Deleuzian generative sense. These aren't just jokes, they're unstable codes, shifting signifiers, and opportunity for camouflage from the impending totalitarian autonomous surveillance doom. To say this is the death of memes is like saying memes died when we stopped using templates like Scumbag Steve, if anyone remembers that, or Neon Cat. I think it's just a new format and it's freer than ever. And I just want to end by this quote from the goated Edward Said, who said, "The intellectual is neither a pacifier nor a consensus builder, but someone whose whole being is staked on a critical sense, a sense of being unwilling to accept easy formulas or ready-made cliches, or the smooth, ever so accommodating confirmations of what the powerful or conventional have to say and what they do, not just passively unwilling, but actively willing to say so in public." And so slop requires minimal criticality to produce or consume, It's the most basic bait for when we let our prefrontal cortex guard down. I'm not an advocate for purity. It's hard to fully cut slop out of our online diet now, but it's good to be aware when we're nose deep into very low-grade digital fentanyl. And as the slop spammers have demonstrated, those with low media and meme literacy, also known as normies, are the most susceptible to slop. Slop makers also aren't only after Facebook's bonus dollars, some are after your ideology. Remember, ChatGPT said that slop is a tool of power. And it's like slop is especially digestible to right-wing ideology because it thrives on simplicity, repetition, and emotional charge, the exact ingredients of fascist rhetoric. Its formats are perfect vessels for ideas like patriotism, religious fundamentalism, and authoritarian nostalgia. The image doesn't need to be clever, it just needs to reinforce a gut feeling. And because slop flattens nuance by design, it rewards the moral absolutism of we're good, they're evil. So, protect your normie friends, radicalize them by spamming their DMs with niche top-grade brain rot, lecture them on meme connoisseurship and oopie-goopie, get them in on it ASAP. Your normie enemies, let them drown in slop. Also, why don't we try brute forcing things too? I think our secret weapon is still this multi-layered, lore-infused niche humor, which has been a staple of meme culture, and it's the true end-to-end encrypted tactic. I see no other way to cope, and if this is the new normal, then I wanted to ask Shumon and Y7, what's the new edgy? Thank you.
Thank you. We just got a few minutes, and then we have to wrap everything up because there's another program that comes after this. But actually, one thing, a word came up in both Idil and Hassan's presentations, which is the word sincerity. And I'm wondering whether sincerity is the opposite of slop, and whether we are in an age of sincerity deficiency, and whether sincerity, and I'm going to go to you first here, actually, Aya, because one of the things I've always appreciated about your account, and this was before I got to meet you exactly a year ago, was a certain amount of sincerity. No, I think there was a courage to be sincere when it is much easier to be insincere, much easier to be sloppy, to be ironic, to be edgy, etc. And therefore, the daily practice of the good morning, I find extremely cleansing in my rotted, feed and story timeline. Could you say something, just brief, I want brief answers, please, because of time, but what does sincerity mean to you? Is it something we should aspire to, or something that's kind of cringe?
Test. I think, cringe is sort of a personal capacity. So cringe depends on how deep you can go with your own self. And, online, it's a quick feed, constantly moving, and it's hard to take the time to really properly absorb something. A lot of the times it's just sort of planting a seed in you and you don't really know what you took in. And I meant to say at the end of my presentation, but I choked, that, it's intention posting is probably the opposite of shit posting. And, there is so much slop on the feed that there needs to be some sort of balance. And, I think because of the amount of slop, we hesitate to think we'll be received properly. But yeah, we're now in this new time where we've witnessed so much that it's important to, when that voice inside of you wants to post something sincere, you should definitely go for it, regardless of how unedgy it seems.
Idil, is it cringe to feel nostalgic for sincerity?
No, what do they say? Like, kill the part of you that cringes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I think, and it's hard to be sincere because people make fun of normies, and normies are sincere, I think. So what is sincerity to me? It's the same thing, right? It's kind of, people have been talking about how it's really cringe to post on Instagram. If you go on like a Gen Z's profile, they don't have any posts. I have like 1,000 posts. So I'm also learning how to be cringe and okay with myself. And I really totally agree. It's a kind of the depth that you're willing to go. And I think it's all these kind of slang internet, like vernacular terms we use with, with tongue in our cheek, but in fact they're pretty existential, deep things. It's just that they're defined by really silly words. So I think we are talking about something quite deep, something that people have been talking about for a really long time. So that's a short answer, I think.
Sincerity, Hassan.
I think, well, the post position it was a reaction to postmodernism, which was the new sincerity movement of the 90s, led by David Foster Wallace and many others. But the issue was, it was framed as a return to modernist grand narratives. And the reason why post was kind of reacting negatively to that was because it was not mirroring the way that society is right now, especially after the internet. And so the position of postmodernism was post-irony, and post-irony was that idea of being ironic while you arrive at sincerity. So you have like these, like a TV show like BoJack Horseman, for example, and it's all about like, you're being very ironic, but then you feel something. And then the post position was to push post-irony into being meta-irony, where you completely take away that kind of like intention, or you basically obscure it, don't necessarily take it away, because there's always going to be an intention, but you don't say if you're being sincere or if you're being ironic. And so, for example, the Good Morning posts, you enjoy them because you understand all the layers of irony of Aya's account, but it arrived there because it just refuses to go back to the old modes of sincerity. And to go to your question of like if sincerity is the opposite of slop, I don't think so, because I think a lot of slop is very sincere. But I think maybe criticality, in the sense that the Edward Said talked about it in that quote, could be the opposite of slop, where you just need a certain level of awareness and active choice kind of mode of thinking to be anti-slop in that sense.
And last question, tung 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 sahur or bombardino crocodilo?
Tung 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 all the way.
Tung 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 all the way.
For all of us, in the name of Islam.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Tung 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 sahur. We've run out of time. Will you please give it up to Hassan, Aya, and Idil? And if I could ask Hannah and Declan to join me on stage, we're gonna wrap everything up. So that's it, basically. That's basically it. Just before we sign off, just to let you know, immediately after this, and this is one reason we have to move at the speed that we're moving, with the urgency that we're moving at, is the digital summit continues immediately after. And so if you plan to stay, please stay. If you don't plan to stay and you plan to leave, please leave. They would really appreciate as quick a room turnover as possible. I know many of us would love to mingle with each other and mingle with our guests, but if we could do that outside, that would be great. So I want to really start the end by thanking a number of people that we really are very grateful to. Firstly, the AV team and the video team at the back, and our volunteers for their hard work. Thank you all very much. A round of applause to everybody. Thank you. And in particular, a very loud shout out and a very loud thank you to Lucrezia and Bahrani, who've brought all of this and all of us together with patience, hard work, and generosity. And I think everybody, I think everybody who's been a guest and has flown in from afar, or as I say, just careened from across town, has appreciated how much hard work has gone into this. So thank you very much, Lucrezia and Bahrani. And to all our generous guests, near and far, we literally couldn't have done this without you. Thank you very, very much. And last but certainly not least in any way, I would like to thank Hannah and Declan for taking the invitation to the new normal with such heartfelt enthusiasm and heat-mapped warmth and the right kind of sincerity, I think. A huge round of applause to Hannah and Declan. Is there anything you'd like to say at this point, just before I sign off?
Hello. Hi. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I would just repeat everything that Shumon said. Every person that Shumon has thanked, and we want to thank Shumon for trusting us time after time with things that we just absolutely love doing, and the opportunities that you give us are incredible. And you have, I mean, last year when you asked us to make work, it felt like you've got this incredible skill to curate people together, and we've met so many amazing people through that, and we hope that we've done the same for our invited guests this year and anyone else that's come that's been able to meet any of the speakers. Yeah, I think, and just again, I asked yesterday in my opening speech what is normal, and it feels like something that is increasingly slippery to define. There's definitely some things that we can never accept as being normal, but I think that there is a lot of space to think about what this new normal is and how we go forward from here. So thank you so much again for everyone for joining us. It's been really fun. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to that, you know, the new normal to me was like, it's the most gaff core, like that's the raison d'etre of gaff, is to, you know, it's where we come to make sense of the current moment, and by next week that current moment will have turned into something else. You know, you've created this platform that's fluent in its subjects, brings in initiates and specialists whilst remaining open and accessible and warm and fun, and with a rigorous understanding of the notion of pop and of the popular. And importantly, it remains warm and understanding when dealing with cultures or cultural moments that are drenched in trauma. We also thank you for inviting artists, practitioners and people like ourselves from miserable, cold climates to come and have their understanding of global centres and cultural centres melted in the Dubai sun. And lastly, I think from everyone in this room, thank you for, is this the 18th year? Thank you for 18 years of gaffing. Can we have a round of applause for Shumon Basar, please?
So that was the new normal. It never started, it never ends. It just all gets more newer, more normaler. But I hope that we can continue to do this together, whether we're so cooked or so back, whether we're online or offline. Be the chaos you want to see. Goodbye. Until next time, thank you so much.